the community is an elusive and difficult thing to quantify. You notice when it's missing, but you feel it when it's there. You don't quite know what makes it special or what's missing, but there is something about community that you can't quite put your finger on. For anyone who regularly attends the Red River Market or other Folkways sponsored events like the Night Bazaar, Chris Kindle Mart, or Canoe Parade, you know there's something special about these places and these events, but you might not know what it is. Joe Burgum and Simone of Folkways have devoted their business to supporting culture creators, believing that a compelling culture creates a sense of belonging in a community. We're so excited to have Joe and Simone here to share their work, some of the behind-the-scenes insights into the Red River Market, and to help us better understand their process and drive for the work they do in our community. Can you please join me in welcoming Joe and Simone?
Wonderful, thank you, Megan. Hello, my name is Joe. This is my partner in crime and in life, Simone. Excited to be here today to share a little bit about the Red River Market and some of the intention that goes into the event that we create every single Saturday, and hopefully some ways that you can be involved in the farmers market going forward. We've got big visions for where the Red River Market is headed, and we hope you're able to join us. So 4 years ago, Simone and I were sitting down and we had come across an article of 12 things to revitalize a downtown. And this was a robust list. It was convert one-ways to two-ways, have the university open a campus downtown, implement a bike share system, start tax incentives for revitalization. Not a short list of things to be done, but of the 12 things, Fargo had done many of them. But one thing on the list that caught Simone and I's eye was a weekly public market. It was one thing, all these amazing things, it was something that was missing. And as young, aspiring event organizers, we said, yeah, we can do that, let's make it happen. And so shortly after deciding we were going to pursue the formation of a farmers market and talking with friends, we were connected with another small group of individuals that were also working on starting a farmers market. Enter Whitney, Megan, and then not pictured Jody Regan. Jody Davis now, I guess. But, so together the five of us started the Red River Market in its very first season. That was over 4 years ago now. When we started the farmers market, we started small. We wanted to make sure we were able to execute on something that was manageable, despite our big vision for what the market would become. This idea of sort of radical incrementalism. We know with the farmers market and with many things, you have to work with the seasons. And so when we started the farmers market 4 years ago, we had 10 vendors, and we would see around 500 people every week. On that first day of the opening bell, we knew we were going to have a wonderful year and we were going to meet our expectations. But we also had a vision for the farmers market being one of the best in the nation. The goal being top 10 farmers market in the United States. I think we're well on our way to that. And part of the reason we put a 10-year net across that is that it takes time. It takes time to work with amazing vendors and to foster that community to be a wonderful farmers market. So this is a photo of our very first year. I think you can see all of the tents. You can see all 10 vendors that were there. And this is nearly all the people that were there. In 4 short years, the farmers market has grown tremendously. This summer we have a roster of nearly 85 businesses we work with. Bakers, growers, sewers, hot food vendors, coffee, flowers, you name it, the farmers market has it. We see anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 people every single weekend. And I think the thing that excites me is we're not done yet. We're excited about the growth we've seen. We know there's more we can do to be more inclusive, to support small businesses, and continue to make an impact in our community with a wonderful public market. Our mission statement for the farmers market is around creating a space for all people in our community to experience the joys of local food. We spent a lot of time thinking about this and the space that we're creating, the intentionality in terms of inclusion of everyone in our community, the joys of all aspects of hot food, prepared food, produce, and more. There are 4 pillars that we use to guide ourselves at the farmers market and really think about the work that we do. Food, of course, access to food, the wonderful produce in the valley. Small business, we're a small business incubator in a lot of ways. People step forward with their ideas, test them out at the farmers market as an easy way to get going. And public space. Not only is it a farmers market, but we think about it as a public market. in a plaza and a space for people to gather and convene, whether they're choosing to make a transaction or simply spending time in public. And finally, community. For Simone and I in our work, all of this revolves around community. And how do we create experiences that bring people together and connect individuals?
So the introduction that Megan gave was kind of perfect in a way, because we really want to share more about the market and the things that not an everyday visitor might know about the market. And whenever I hear someone describe it, they always say something like, well, it's more than a farmer's market. There's more than produce, but that extra thing that's special about it, they can't always put their finger on. They can't always describe, or they can't always name exactly why that is. And that's the part of the farmer's market that we put so much time and effort and intentionality behind, and we really want to share more about that. So as experience designers, as event designers, we see the Red River Market as a container, as a vessel that is a platform for our vendors to succeed. So we believe that if we build the perfect container, all of our vendors will really be able to flourish and thrive. So I really want you to imagine what it's like to enter the farmer's market. We painstakingly take a lot of effort into creating this real experience for everyone. So when you enter the market, you're walking down Broadway, you get this visual image of the red truck, and you immediately know you're there because maybe you've seen our logo or our materials or something like that. You have to make a full turn into the market, so you're facing immediately into the vendors and into the area. And we put up all the lights and all the pennants, and even though the lights aren't on, they're really important to us because they kind of create this outdoor room. You're immediately in this space where you know you're in the farmer's market. It's kind of a safe space immediately. We have planters and all these things in the aisles because you're rushing in from your everyday life, and we really want you to take a moment and slow down and appreciate the space that you're in. And then right when you come into the market, you see all the hot food, you see all the coffee, you see the performance stage, because we really want people to know that this is a space that they can spend their entire afternoon, their entire day, because we really have everything that you need within the farmer's market space. And I think that's important because in a lot of American cities, we don't have a lot of public space. And as people, we don't really know how to use public space. It took us a long time to get people to even get off the sidewalk and feel comfortable. In the space in front of the farmer's market on Broadway, we have a bunch of seating, and every time I'm there, someone says, "Can I sit here? Is that okay?" Even though it's a public plaza, kind of a mini park, if you will. And for thousands of years, when we've built cities, as long as we've lived in villages, lived in community, we've built these public spaces into our city. And somewhere along the way, we kind of forgot to create space for people to spend time without spending money, or spend time without an agenda, just to hang out, spaces to meet people. So I think that this serves as that space to really connect, run into people, hear the news, hear the word of the town, and it has a utilitarian standpoint of being a place to get your groceries as well. So seating is really important to set the market. We can seat probably 150 people at a time. It's a lot of chairs. And we really see that as a place where people can connect. Having all the food and the amenities and the seating really allows people to spend time, which allows them to spend more money, and allows them to make those really important connections with their neighbors. And we also put a lot of intentionality into the different types of spaces that we have. This is the Broadway stage that I was talking about. This is where we have our food demonstrations. We have kids' book readings here and a lot of fun programming. If you've never made it over to that side, please check it out, especially this weekend. Megan is doing a food demo of squash soup, so I'm looking forward to that. But we think about what kind of spaces feel really welcoming and comfortable to a lot of different people. So for example, a lot of people might really love spending time in the turf area where all the kids are and it's craziness and there's music. But a lot of people prefer more of an area of refuge. So we like to create spaces that everyone will feel welcome and feel comfortable. So this is more of a quiet space. We have the educational activities here, and it's kind of a place to spend time out of the fray. And the next thing that we really put a lot of emphasis on is inclusivity, and that is in so many different ranges. The first one I want to talk about is age inclusivity. We want to make sure the market is a space for 8 to 80. We think about how do we invite kids and invite parents, but it's not a space just for kids, it's not a space just for parents. It's a place that they can spend time together, they can do activities together, they can learn about food together. We think that's really important, and we're working on ways to invite more seniors in our community into the space as well. We also think a lot about income diversity as well. So our SNAP program helps people on food assistance double their dollars at the Red River Market. So if they spend 10 of their SNAP EBT dollars, they'll actually get $20 at the market. And we also have worked on providing free bus rides as well. And then we also really value global diversity as well. So we see that food is a bridge to many cultures in our community. We're very proud of our different food vendors and that you can really taste the world in Fargo. And we see that that connection between vendor and person as a real cultural bridge between any culture, because the public market is so synonymous kind of with any community. And really that contributes to creating a space where anyone can feel like they belong, that they can be themselves, that they can meet someone new, and maybe they can dance in the aisles while they're waiting for a cup of coffee in the morning. And I want to share a little story about my parents. Can I just see who knows my parents in the audience? A lot of people have probably seen my parents around at the farmer's market. They're only not here because they're chilling in Greece with all their friends right now, so it's pretty cool. But I just want to share how my parents use the market, because I think it really shows the power of the communal aspect of it. So when my parents arrive at the farmer's market, they're usually there before the bell rings so they can say hi to me and Joe and buy us a cup of coffee. And they'll go to the same table every single day. So they sit on the far side of the stage under one of the umbrellas by the coffee vendor beverage area. And they'll sit at that table for probably about 2 hours. They're probably there from around 10 to noon. And my mom will get a scone or an oatmeal, and she'll sip her coffee and hang out. My dad will be kind of wandering around. But throughout the day, I always come back to that spot because I know that they're there and I know they have a seat for me, and they'll probably share their food. But whenever I go over and see them, they have a different group of friends there. So probably every 15 minutes, their friends just rotate out at this table. And they have such an amazing social experience there. And none of those people that they sit with were invited by them. They were just there. They saw my parents, they came and sat down, and they know it was a place that they could come and chat. And I think that consistent spontaneity is what we call it, that you came to the market. You're gonna come every week, but you don't know what you're gonna buy, what's in season, what vendors are there, and you don't know who you're gonna run into who you didn't invite. And I think that is the part that people have trouble articulating in what is so special about the market, what is different, and why it makes it more than just a farmer's market. So that's not them, but it's a good example of that kind of feeling that people get when they're there.
We spend a lot of time daydreaming about ways that we can improve the farmers market and this vision we have for the future. And we do think that we're onto something in terms of what makes a great public market and how do we share that with the rest of North Dakota and other states around us. So in the years ahead, we're excited to think about how do we be a thought leader? How do we create resources and information for people to think about these things? Because this patio set is $50 at IKEA. It's 2 chairs and a table. And the value that has created for the community is invaluable in terms of a place to sit. So we often think about a chair as sort of this symbol of our work and our crusade for community building, because in a lot of ways it's about creating a space for people to sit and creating a space for people to be. So we have an exciting road ahead of us. Like I said, we have a 10-year vision for the farmers market. We hope that it ends up being a multi-generational organization for our community, but for the time being, we have our eyes set on 10 years out. So we have 6 years left to our 10-year vision, and we hope that you join us in that space. So some different ways to be part of the farmers market. I think first is an invitation to be a vendor, to sell your goods and wares at the farmers market on a Saturday. To come and volunteer. Whether you're new to our community and looking to get engaged, if you're just wanting to help out on a Saturday morning, or you want something to do with your family, we have lots of ways to volunteer at the farmers market. Come and share your talents, whether that be a musical performance or a food demonstration at our culinary table. And you can come alongside the farmers market as a sustaining member by making an annual gift. Individuals that are sustaining members understand the value of a public market and see the road ahead and want to help us grow to that vision to the future. In closing, I want to share a new tradition that has started at the farmers market this year. So for those that have been there, every single Saturday we ring the bell at 10 to close the farmers market. And when we ring the bell, community members step up out of their chair, pick up their chair, and bring it into the garage. And I think this is a really powerful thing about the farmers market, that people are choosing to participate in that way. It exemplifies the values of our community, that it takes many hands to make a public market happen. And we're so grateful to be able to hold that space. So thank you for being part of the Red River Market.
Thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
Did anyone have a clue how thoughtful and intentional the farmers market is?
It takes a lot.
It takes a lot. I remember when I first met Joe and Simone over 4 years ago, and we were sitting having tea and talking about creating a farmers market, and they kept talking about aisle length and how many chairs we need to have. And I was like, what are they talking about? But you can see that it matters. It matters. So for those who this is your first time at First Fridays, we now invite you to ask questions for Joe and Simone. This is a time for you to ask more about what you heard them discussing, or things that you've been thinking about at the farmers market, or share your ideas too. We want this to be a space where we're gathering feedback as well. So I just wanted to ask, to get started, you shared a little bit about this tradition, this multi-generational tradition. And I know as, when I think about the farmers market, how excited I am to think about, 20 years from now, what's it gonna be like to go to the market? So what's your dream looking like 20 years from now? I know you said it's the 10-year goal right now, but let's just push it out and talk 20.
Well, I think that it's really exciting to think about that, because I think a lot of people think of the Red River Market as just the farmers market. And even though it's only 4 years old, it's kind of already institutionalized a little bit as like, oh, it's the farmers market, of course. So even thinking about a 20-year vision is kind of magical to me, because to even think that it would still exist and is keeping going and growing and just like solidifying in people's minds and hearts and daily routines and traditions is just a kind of a beautiful thought for me. I'm so excited that Morgan's here, because I want to give her a shout out. She took pretty much all, except for, it's not up there anymore. Pretty much all the photos in the PowerPoint, and it's impossible to tell the story of the market without those, so thank you.
I think one of the reasons we've had such success with the farmers market is that we're a platform. And so Simone and I and our team get a lot of success through the farmers market, but the reality is we're not running 20 point of sales. We're not putting up 80 tents on a Saturday or hosting all of those vendors. They're there running their small businesses, and that's because we're a platform that people are able to plug into and participate. And so when I think about the 20 years of the farmers market, I think there's the physical aspect of the farmers market, whether there's more than just a Saturday, but I think there's the resources the platform can provide to all of those local vendors. Part of the reason we had such a long vision is when we looked at best farmers markets practices around the country, there were stringent rules on food processing and all these things to be organic and within a certain distance and super high quality. And we said to ourselves, if we do this, we're going to exclude all of the people that are working hard here today. And so part of the reason we have such a long time frame is that we want to elevate people along the way. For those that were here last season at First Fridays, you heard from Jeremiah, who's an amazing food entrepreneur in our community doing handmade fermented hot sauce and house sodas. And those are the sort of things that we dreamt of the day that we opened, and now we have things like that. And we have crepes at the farmers market and tamales and amazing produce, and these things that take time to bring people into the fold to participate. So
we also have a dream and goal of, because it's so local, we're not competing with the farmers market, that's an hour away or over 100 miles away. So what we'd like to do in the future is to be able to empower other farmers market operators and to be able to share our knowledge and share our processes with them, so that across the state and across the region we're able to have really great markets and public spaces across all communities.
Amen. All right, other questions from the audience? Just raise your hand. Abby.
Yes, can you talk a little bit more about the sustaining membership and what you'll be doing with the money over time?
Great. Sustaining membership, where's that money going?
yeah, so we've had this sustaining membership for about 2 years, and this is the first year we're really leaning into it. We're in the process of securing our fiscal hosting for the farmers market. It will be a huge step to be a 501c3 fiscally hosted project. So those funds really go towards the operations. So the farmers market's grown a lot. We have good positive cash flow from vendors being there, but despite the growth that we've had, there's still a shortfall. And it really comes down to staff time in terms of making sure we've got the capacity in terms of staff that are there. There's many initiatives that we've started. We think about the zero waste, we think about the EBT outreach, the live music. I mean, one of the things that is easy to forget, but the farmers market is the largest all-age free music venue in Fargo. We'll spend close to $4,500 on live music this year as a farmers market. And so there's these components that I think we have more work to be done in terms of our storytelling, where when we say farmers market, there's obviously an image that comes to mind, but that we're a public arts organization in that way, or that we're an education organization. And so those sustaining memberships, particularly on an annual basis, help to start to budget, help to start grow our base, and really continue that narrative as we look to the future as an organization. We're really excited. We're going to be participating in Giving Hearts Day this year in February, which we think is going to be a kind of a new coming of age for the farmers market in some ways, because it is fun when we meet people that have heard of the market and then ask if we're still down by the dike. Which we're not. But I think there's something about that. People know we have farmers markets in our community, but it really is that extra invitation to bring them to downtown and to show them all that the River Market has to offer.
It's always fun to ask, when was the last time you were at the Dyke Farmers Market? Because it hasn't been there for over 5 years. Other questions? Okay.
Have you thought about ways to get, I know you got efforts in terms of the immigrant population, get them there as a customer. How about helping them start the businesses that might be part of the farmers market?
Yeah, so we are working really hard on inclusivity. That's one of our biggest growth areas, I think, just in the community building side of it. Yeah, so we have worked really hard, one, to do outreach to existing businesses. There are a lot of great ethnic food businesses, people from around the world coming here and making food, which I think is really amazing. And that's really first where we went to with this I don't know, strategy, initiative, whatever. And it's worked really well. I mean, people want to be out there, people want to share their food, so that's really awesome. And we've also run a business course called Co-Starters that we've had a lot of people go through in order to help them start their business, really just formalize everything that they're doing, learn what they need to do, because it is a passion. They don't necessarily, I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily have the skills to make their passion into a business. So that's something that we've worked on as well. And then we're working on, for visitors, working with some cultural ambassadors to be able to create and distribute multilingual posters in many different languages and using phrasing that makes a connection with people of all different backgrounds.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about co-starters and then how that program has transferred people into the farmers market as well?
Yeah, and we've had existing vendors take it as well because you kind of just are getting going and you don't really know how to get started. So Co-Starters is a 9-week business program, and it is run one evening a week business program that really takes a business idea from idea to execution. And it's a really simple model. We've had many vendors take it just because they have felt like they've started their business and they didn't really do it the right way when they started, or they're not ready to do the farmers market yet, but they want to get it started. And this is a national program that we have implemented in Fargo. We've given our vendors a discount in order to take it. Anything?
There's more information on our website, folkways.co. But we've had over close to 80 individuals come to the program, not necessarily all farmers market vendors, but we don't have we've got a lot of great entrepreneurial support in our community, but if someone says, I got an idea, how do I take action? Or I'm doing this side hustle and I think that I want to refine it. We see co-starters as really an opportunity for peer learning, facilitated by a local business leader to have a discussion on a weekly basis and go through the curriculum. So our next class will start likely winter 2019, but it really has been amazing to see the value that's provided to folks. Leola, who's up here before from Heart and Soul Cafe, Mara here have been through the program. So we've got a great network of graduates.
Other questions? Yeah, Robin.
I've been to farmers markets in other cities that are in an indoor space. Would you guys ever consider an indoor space where the market could run all year round?
I think yes, in the quick answer. We have hopes of understanding how do we bring the farmers market more year round. Part of that is growing incrementally. So one of the things we saw early on with the farmers market was the lack of access to marketplace. So before the Red River Market, there were a number of veggie stops around the community where you could, pull over on the side of the road, buy produce, get back in your car, drive away. Some of those run by individual farmers, sometimes groups of farmers. But other than that, you were doing a CSA. If you were growing produce, you were hustling that produce out the door yourself. And so now at the farmers market, there's 17 weeks of pretty consistent sales. There's a market there, and with the co-op. And so the co-op coming into its second year, we saw that as a big component to sort of the marketplace, the go-to-market strategy for producers. And even for us, we'll have 3 winter markets this year, growing incrementally as we work with growers, provide resources with the USDA, start to talk about hoop houses, talk about storage. There's a component in terms of building that infrastructure so there is great produce year round, and we know that it doesn't happen overnight.
And with indoor markets, the other thing is that it's much more expensive because we do have to rent a space. So those 3 that we have, or once a month that we have, they end up being a big chunk of our budget. So try to keep them to a few.
All right, other questions? Jack?
So Growing Together was invited to come down to the market to tell our story. Can you talk a little bit about that and if you're involving nonprofits on a regular basis?
Yeah, so one thing that's really fun about the market is, again, that we're that platform for others to succeed. So every week we host at least 2 community nonprofits, and we encourage them to do something engaging and provide some educational programming. So we've been able to feature a ton of different community nonprofits, and it's really fun to see what they go out and do, and Growing Together was no exception in providing kind of that educational connection. And we really kind of let people come to us and try to provide a space for that. Anything else I should know about? No?
So when I first met you guys, I almost felt like you had a vocabulary that I didn't really understand. creative placemaking, consistent spontaneity. So that is, yeah, right on. And once you start to get it, you're like, wow, this is amazing. But there's so many people that struggle to understand what you do. Can you speak a little to that and how you're trying to overcome helping people to get what you're doing?
Yeah, and that's the thing about the phrases that we use. We use those phrases because we're trying to articulate moments or memories or feelings, and that's really freaking hard. So in some cases, you have to like make up your own phrases. So then it's like a third dimension of like, okay, it's a feeling, and now I have this phrase, and now I have to explain this phrase to you. But I think it's kind of the best way to articulate some of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, I think it's gotten a lot easier to explain what Simone and I do as creators, and through Folkways as kind of our vehicle in part, because people start to see the experiences that we're creating. There is an element where we're largely creating events right now. And for us, the vehicle of events is really a means to an end in terms of community building. There are other projects that we've done many years ago now that are still impacting our community. We were heavily involved in bringing Uber to North Dakota in terms of a resource for people and what that meant in terms of the service industry and employment and access to transit, wayfinding signs downtown. So right now our medium is really events, which I think has been good for people to be able to see the experience. But with the understanding of placemaking and experience design, my background is really in human-centered design. So we feel like we're problem solvers, that there isn't really a challenge we can't tackle, but our passion is around building community. And so we use sort of this design strategy experiences to say, how do we connect people within our community? And we think a big component of that is creating opportunities for the synergies, for the spontaneity, for people to run into each other organically, but also this component of identity and belonging. To have a great market in many cities is a piece of pride, or it's something you do on Saturday. That's why they're institutions. When you're in this community, you go to the farmer's market, or events like the canoe parade. We've got a 10-year vision on the canoe parade, and we hope that in 10 years' time, that is a synonymous experience with our community. That people are driving from Minneapolis to come and see the crazy, wonderful spectacle art on this river. Have you ever seen this thing? You gotta go check it out. Just kind of that energy that comes about it. And so that really that component of identity and love we think is really important for belonging. And that's our end goal, is how do we instill a sense of belonging within our community? And we employ a lot of different strategies to get there. And right now we're event creators for the most part.
Morgan.
So something that I find to be most beautiful about every single event that you guys do is that you start really small without people knowing that you're starting small, and then you just continuously grow it after it's already wonderful. So I had no idea that this year it was going to be like turf and murals and all this stuff, and then we're going to add a night bazaar and we're going to have fire throwing things, but like you didn't need it almost, and then you envisioned it and you did it. And so is there a strategy that you guys take to understand, like, yes, this is successful, and now we're going to bring it to the next level, or are there just kind of different things that you noticed of when you should grow?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing of note is that as event organizers, we are absolutely masochists. We love what we do. There's always a point in time you're like, why are we doing this again? So I think metrics is a really important discussion for us, particularly as social entrepreneurs in a social enterprise where we're doing business and we're also doing good work and trying to figure out how do we bridge the gap on that, both from a messaging standpoint, but also from a business structure standpoint. Then we start thinking about investment or funders or grants, articulating what are the metrics around that. So we collect surveys at the farmer's market, trying to understand how does an experience like this connect you to your community? Where are you experiencing community? Who did you run into that you didn't plan to run into? Collecting information about how did you get here? Where did you come from? Information like that helps us create baselines in terms of the experiences that we're creating. And then in terms of the more, I think there's just a fun part of that. We spend a lot of time focusing on process. So for the farmer's market, in a lot of ways, the things that we've added have been infrastructure, which don't have an operational component to it, which is great. And so we've grown a lot, but our operations have scaled and have been pretty consistent. And so when we add something, we really work to refine kind of the book. We want the book to be documented, a repeatable process, and then that allows us to be really creative on top of that and say, what's the new creative experience that we want to create in this community or within a specific event?
Yeah, and I think with the big jump in the space, we spend a lot of time on the data collection, observing people at the market. We're always watching to see where you stand, to see where you sit, to see where you are waiting in line, and how the lines curve for different vendors, and if a vendor feels too far away, or if we're just like examining the flow at all times. And that's the thing about the market, is that it's 16 or 17 weekends, and it is, whether you notice it or not, it's slightly different every single weekend, because there isn't a time that we don't think that something could have been slightly better, and we get to implement that immediately the next week, which is really, for us, the fun thing about it.
We don't anticipate the farmers market growing next year in the same sort of vendor scale. We're starting to reach capacity of our site. The plaza space we've created is working really well. If we had the budget, I would have 5 times as many chairs as we have now. Our rule of thumb is generally that if 80% of chairs are full, the remaining 20% represents people that can't find the seat, aren't comfortable finding the seat, but there's more demand. And the reality is seats are 100% full at the farmers market, and so we realized we could use more seating to get to below that 80% threshold is generally what our goal is. But I think it's increasing the quality of the initiatives. The farmers market is one of the only landfill-free events in Fargo, so we're really conscious about the waste streams that our vendors are producing on site, single-use items, how are we processing those, and there's a huge opportunity in terms of talking about waste in our community, single-use straws, single-use plastic. We've learned a lot about the realities of recycling, some of the sad things about what it is, and for us, we've really said, hey, it's got to be paper. Paper is a renewable resource. How do we find paper fighters that are planting trees? We know we can bury that in a backyard. We know a farmer will take that. And so those are the sort of things we hope we can increase in quality as the farmers market scales to really enhance that guest experience.
Other questions? Yeah, Lynette.
Hi, Joan, Simone, Lynette from NDSU. Work with Megan, so glad to see you again. And my question is, Extension's got offices in every county, and I've listened to you many times, and I'm just always trying to think about, all right, how do we keep expanding this? And we've got a number of agents that are working with their local farmers markets in communities from 500 to 50,000. But what are the 2 things that you would provide? What are the 2 top things that advice would be from you to these folks that are trying to really get things moving in a more productive, creative way out there across the state of North Dakota? Because I think your model's fabulous. I think we need to just keep spreading this, and we've got people out there that do it and they want to do more, but this one's exciting. And what are the top 2 things? What can we share?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. We really feel like the quality of a farmer's market doesn't need to be reflective to the number of vendors. We often have friends that talk to the first year and say, when you had 10 vendors, I had the most fun. It was the most intimate. And so when I think about the quality of farmers market and the work across state, I genuinely think North Dakota could be known for you can go to any town in North Dakota and have an amazing farmers market experience. I think as an agrarian community, that is something that we should be known for. I think the 2 things is seating and coffee. I think that the bistro seating and coffee, if those, we've been to, I don't know if it's the hundreds of farmers markets, but the number of farmers markets I've been to where it's like, do you guys have coffee? It's like, oh, we get the percolator at the info booth. It's like, okay, that's fine. That's a good, you have coffee, okay, check. Or you buy a thing of hot food and you walk like a, quarter of a mile to a picnic table in a park that's kind of near the farmer's market. And so I think that seating element really creates a space, right? If there's nowhere to sit, it's not really a place, right? It's kind of, so I don't know if you have a different 2, but.
In addition to Simone's parents being the regulars at the market, they're also frequently hauling back IKEA furniture from the market too. I feel like every time they go to Minneapolis, it's like, and they're bringing back more patio furniture.
They've made significant contributions. I'm like, hey, Dad, can you get 45 chairs in the car? Yes, yeah. Thank them the next time you see them. Yeah, I think that's so true, because that's like where that community component is, especially because you hear about, the cafe closed, and that's such a loss for small communities. Or the community center, the retirement home, like that can be such a loss for those communities, and the ability to share a cup of coffee in a public space at a seat with a neighbor is that first step into making it a place. And that's the thing that steps it up from being a veggie stop, which is totally fine. It's just a different kind of experience where you park, get out of your car, get your vegetables, and leave. The first thing that we thought about when we were starting to create these events is like, how do we get someone to spend a half an hour? How do we get them to spend 45 minutes? How do we get them to spend an hour? Because that's kind of that bonus time beyond the vegetable time is where that kind of community happens. And I'll let you know when my online course is available.
All right, we are out of time for questions, so I'm sorry.
You can come talk to us
so
later.
much. Yeah, we'll have time after. But we always wrap up every first Friday with asking a question. What can we do to support you? I know you shared a little bit about the sustaining members, but what can we do?
I think, as Megan said, and as we noted earlier, please consider becoming a sustaining member. I think as individuals that are coming here today and participating in this gathering, you understand the value of food in our community, and I hope that Simone and I, talking about the intentionality of the event at the farmers market, can see the value of public space and what that has to offer. We know that treasure is a valuable thing. We're also excited about time. We are a largely volunteer-run organization, and so even if it is 10 minutes when the bell closes, or the hour before the bell rings, we're always in need of hands, and it is really fulfilling to see community members come forward and in the summer get sweaty and move chairs and get everything set up, and the bell rings at 10 and they wave and they go meet a friend, and it is one of those things where, for many of us, we spend our time creating digitally, and to be able to help see something come together on a Saturday morning from an asphalt parking lot to a public space where thousands of people gather, that experience is really fun. So our website has all the information, redriver.market, in terms of becoming a sustaining member or volunteer opportunities. And I would say invite a friend. We have 4 more weeks left of the farmers market. I know it doesn't seem like farmers market season, but this is peak farmers market season, ladies and gentlemen. We have Fall Festival.
Yeah, so on Saturday is one of our actually biggest events of the year, Fall Fest. So we're bringing the pumpkin patch to you, and we have tons of kids activities, all for free, and there'll be polka music and dancing. So even if it's cold out, put your long underwear on, come dance with us. It's gonna be so fun.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Can you join me in giving Joan some more?